Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle, where Dean and Rob talk about everything business and marketing related. Today, we're going to do something really interesting. We get asked questions all the time, and Dean has made a list of different questions that we've been asked. This could be ranged for almost any business that these questions would be asked on for any industry. A lot of industries that we've been getting a ton of questions from recently have been realtors, landscapers, home services like roofers, painters, and all kinds of different people that we work with. That's probably one of the biggest varieties that we get, Dean, is we get so many different industries that we worked with, and it gives us a different perspective because we can take things from different industries and plug them into others, and it ends up making kind of that secret sauce that we end up putting together, especially here in the huddle. Would you agree?
So basically, yeah, that's a hell of an introduction, Rob. Thank you.
That's a hell of an introduction. There we go.
So anyway, I want to thank these are actually questions that have come from our podcast. Some of it we've talked about before, but they like us to go over some things and revisit some stuff. So I want to just thank everybody for submitting these concerns and questions to us, because that's great, because it gives us something that is real world, that is important. So anyway,
I think that's a big thing, and I love getting questions. We say that all the time. Send us your questions, because we're always looking for things to talk about, and it doesn't have to be marketing related. It could be anything in the business world.
Right. And so what's really neat is that some of the questions actually came from Miami, Florida, and some came from Houston, Texas. And so we have people all over listening to these things. So what happens in one part of the world is still a concern in other parts of the world in the United States. So let's just jump in real quick. And I know we've kind of talked about some things like this. So the first question is how the service that people want to find services, and they're still using that service near me on voice search and things of that nature, or on a search, and they're saying, can they rank higher without depending on ads? So that's kind of the question they had. I'm putting into a synopsis a little bit, but that's basically the term. When organic searches are happening, how can they rank higher but without taking out ads? Does that make sense what they're asking?
Yeah, it falls into the tree principle that we talk about all the time, in my opinion. You have that root system, which is going to be that organic marketing. It's all your listings. That's your name, your address, your phone number. You have the trunk of the website. And then these questions, as we kind of get into them, will be different branches in there. Pay-per-click is one. And what a lot of business owners have done is they've relied on pay-per-click being their only source. Pay-per-click has its time and its place to be used. It has great remarketing capabilities. It has a lot of stuff that's inside of there, but a lot of businesses use it as a crutch. And that's their main primary spot where they're getting most of their leads from, or they're getting their business would die if pay-per-click dried up tomorrow. And that's wrong for them to be thinking about, because they're putting themselves in a very risky spot. So having that organic piece, so going into your root structure, going into your website for the trunk of that tree and branches, being able to be organic inside of your blog, inside of social media, and tying that together should be your main source where things are coming from. You can have you should be treating your Google ads, your Facebook ads, any of those pay-per-click pieces as a subsidiary to yours, or to be able to give yourself a boost during certain periods, or to be able to remarket out, but it should not be your primary spot that you're focusing most of your attention to.
Right, and I think I'm going to kind of add on to that a little bit. I think what I'm hearing a little bit from this is the near me comment, and that's more voice search. Ads don't really have a lot to do with the voice search networks, and
at the time of recording this, you can't do a voice search ad.
Right.
Do I think they're going to come out in 2025? Hell yeah, because I think all the different people, they're going to have to make money. They're losing money because people aren't using traditional search like they were. So I predict that by the end of 2025, they'll have ads on.
Right. I don't know. I agree with you, but I don't know what it's going to look like. Or I guess what it's going to sound like is the better word for it. I mean, will they say this is a paid ad? I don't know, but regardless. The organic piece, like you said, there's a value to ads. I think the other comment I want to make on that is I think a lot of businesses get hung up on when they have an ad or pay-per-click, they have a tendency to fall higher up on the search process because they're given some priorities. What they need to understand is that the organics, to a point. I mean,
I'm going to argue that a little bit. I have case studies and I've watched this. I can't prove it, but I think when you have ads going it hurts you organically. And the reason why it hurts you organically is because they would rather show your ad than they would show your organic listing,
Right.
because they make money off of that.
Right.
So I see a lot of businesses that end up turning advertising on, and they're like, well, my organic's not showing up, but my ad is. Well, if you're Google or your Facebook, I'm going to pick on Google on this one probably more because it has more of a
Right.
spot for it. But so why would it show you in an organic way and there? Because that's not going to make sense to them. Now they say that's not the case. They say it's all programmed in there, and I have seen where the ad shows up and you also showed up organically. But I really want to. My business sense and my conspiracy side of me comes out and says I think sometimes ads can actually hurt your organic.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but people are looking at, because like if you do a search, you'll see a sponsored ad or whatever, and they get pushed up to the top, if you will. But I think it hurts you in the overall scheme of things. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, ads have a place.
They're part of your tree.
Right.
So when you look at your whole entire thing, when you're trying to get yourself to fit out inside of the forest, you have that, organic approach, and you have branches. It's one branch of it. Just like you might still be running Valpak ads or mailers, or you might have email campaigns, or you might have whatever you're doing. You might be advertising on that school newspaper or whatever it might be to be able to promote, or you might have, billboards, and those are all part of your tree that build up your ecosystem of your actual business.
Perfect. All right. I think we beat that horse up a little bit. So I'm I'm not going to say that because I'm going to get the PETA people after me. No, we've taken care of that one. So let's stay along the lines of Google right now, because the next question is, because a lot of people consider Google business profile and that very important. The question is how can they optimize their Google business profile to outrank their competitors? I mean, we've talked about that some. But if that's where they want to focus on and that's what they need, they'd like to have some help on how they might be able to outrank some people. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit.
Service area is going to be huge. Making sure your service area is properly set up if you're a service area business. Inside your Google business profile, making sure you're doing Google business profile posts, I think still has a lot of value. Your questions and answers and generating reviews, but it's going to be activity pieces. Like everything inside of your ecosystem for organic, it's those activity points that you're going to get for being active and being present inside of the platform. So it doesn't matter if we're talking voice search, if we're talking about Google search, Google Assistant, Alexa, Siri, Cortana, Bixby, even bring Bing and Bing Places into this mix. Bing Places is still lacking majorly, but you have to be active on there. And if you're not active, especially inside of Google, since it has the Google posts, it has questions and answers, making sure you're providing enough information. What I see a lot of business owners when they don't optimize correctly inside of their Google business profile is going to be when they don't complete everything, or they try their spam scores through the roof. Now, Google doesn't have a spam score that they monitor that or any of those pieces, but if you're just putting bullet point lists and trying to jam everything in, not following their terms and conditions and having phone numbers and contact info inside of the business description and all the stuff that Google is a pain in the butt for. I mean, that's why we pulled Google out and do it manually inside of our system, is because they're such a pain in the butt for what their terms and conditions are for each of those pieces. So if you don't follow exactly, they'll also suspend your account. I think a lot of businesses are experiencing that too.
Right. And let's kind of talk about you talked about the service areas. You just touched on that a little bit. For the people that aren't showing their address, that's a huge piece.
Huge.
Get that information out there and make sure. I think they allow up to 20 different locations or something like that. I don't remember. But it's not a big deal. But make sure you utilize all that stuff. Use all that if you can. And then the other piece we're talking about, the tree, is that making sure that your website is in agreement with what you're saying on your Google business profile. Yep. That's huge. And I think the questions and answers and the FAQs that might be on your website, if you can align those, you do questions and answers on Google business profile. Alignment on that is important as well. Do you
I agree
with that? Okay.
because it goes into that whole piece. Now, there is a piece inside of your Google business profile. I don't have any data say this is proving it, but from the data science team, and one of our data science guys came over and talked to me the other day about it. And he really truly thinks, and what he's seen inside the data sets that we constantly are analyzing and diving deep into, what he was saying is that when you register, so when you look at that root ball and you look at, let's say, Simply Be Found's listings engine and how we go out to, now we're talking over 1,000 networks inside of that system, that gives credibility. So inside of marketing, you have 3 different pillars. You have content, you have authority, and you have trust. So you're building authority and trust when the same information is exactly the same in more spots. So say that in his whole entire analogy on this was, say the business is suspended, to be able to get that suspension lifted, it makes it easier, is what he's seeing data points from, if you are everywhere else, because now it has data points to go look at. Because a lot of the stuff inside of the Google business profile for getting you verified and doing all those pieces is based on data pieces. So it's trying to make sure you're a legit business, you're real, you're active. So if you're active inside of your social media, you have all these listings. Obviously, you're not a fly by night. You have stability. It builds up that content, authority, and trust pillars to be able to help you be able to get approved. And he's also tracking and trying to be able to put a whole case study together on this. But it's a matter of how all that data gets recognized and how it gets ranked. So does Google rank you higher inside of search if you have all the other stuff and you have that many stuff? Because when you do when you're doing the listings engine for us, for Simply Be Found, or doing citations or whatever you want to call it, you're building that content and that authority and that trust up. His argument is that'll automatically bring you up inside of the search because you're building up those 3 pillars of content, authority, and trust inside of there.
Gotcha.
What's your thoughts? Because I hadn't shared that.
I agree with you 100%. And damn it, you didn't knock me out by me using one of my acronyms, FAQs, frequently asked questions. Not everybody knows what FAQs are. It's like, what the hell? And that's my biggest pet peeve. You didn't knock me down on that one. So
I'm sorry.
But I agree with you that everything has to, the stars have to align, if you will, and everything that you're doing with the information you're putting out about your business. So is there anything else you want to cover on that, or should we jump on?
Let's jump to the next one. What do we got?
All right, okay. What's the best? Okay, so they're looking at reviews, and what's the best way, in your opinion, to get more reviews? Are reviews still as important as they used to be? I think they are, but let's kind of talk about it. But how do you go about getting their customers to give you a review, and how would you handle a negative review?
That's a good question. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to start that off with the statement, and just so everybody knows, I don't have no idea what these questions that Dean are going to ask me when I call upon these. So
I haven't heard of it all.
This is 100% on the fly, me having to go to my memory bank and go, okay, what am I going to say for this? But it's one of those things to where, for reviews, I think the number one mistake that anybody is making inside of reviews right now is they're concentrating on one network. And usually that's Google. Now, there's a lot of places you can get reviews. You can get reviews on Better Business Bureau if you have a listing there, which you can get one for free. All you have to do is ask them to create you a profile and tell them you don't want to be accredited. And they'll try to sell you like crazy to do it. But you can ask for reviews on your Better Business Bureau. You can ask for reviews on Google, obviously, Facebook. And then there's industry specifics, Home Advisors, which is now Angie's List. You have all these different places. But if you think about everywhere your industry can get it, you want to be able to spread those reviews out across there. For one, not everybody has a Google account to leave a review. They have to have a Google account inside of there. They might have an account on one of the others. So spread that out and ask for it in multiple spots and give them some options when it comes to that. There's some awesome review management tools that are out there. We personally don't do any review management, but we will help you be able to answer your reviews. And we recommend just logging in, answering the review. Most of the networks will send you an email anyway. I think the monitoring services are, I looked at bringing it into the platform, into our dashboard, and I just don't see the use of that tool in today's world because it does send you that email. But you can use that coach to be able to respond to that negative review. The big thing is when you're responding to a negative review inside of there or responding to any review is taking the emotion out of it.
Yes, I
So
agree.
you don't want to have any emotion, but you want to bring value inside of there because that's going to fit into your 3 pillars of content, authority, and trust inside of that review piece because that's going to bring content and trust and authority. So how you respond is everything. Don't just say, thanks for the review or whatever. I'm sorry you had a bad experience and a canned response every time. Make it real about that person. Bring in some facts. If you remember doing service with them, say you're a landscaper, say, I really enjoyed this. I love doing this part of your yard. Your sprinkler system was kind of a pain in the butt for this section, but we got through it. We worked through it. There's a lot of value you can bring to that because that's all content. So like when a voice search happens, it's going to go and it's going to look at your review statuses. It's going to go look at all your content. It's going to go look at all these pieces to be able to determine where you're going to fit at in the list and where it wants to deliver. Because you have to remember at the end of the day, this is a long drifted answer, but at the end of the day, you have to remember that any network, any search that's out there is trying to deliver the best result it possibly can and make the best decision to give the person what they're looking for. So reviews is a huge part when it comes to that.
Right. And the other thing too is I don't know if every network allows it, but if you resolve a conflict, I think sometimes they'll change their reviews. They can actually upgrade them.
They can edit.
But,
Most of them do.
Yeah, but that's another reason why you want to take care of things and because they may reverse their opinion a little bit on how you handle the situation by working with them to resolve the conflict. So I agree with you 100% on that one, Rob. All right. Okay, I've read these things too, and I'm trying to reconsolidate these back to you. So this is definitely real. So, in social media, I guess to ask the question, using social media as a marketing tool, which platform do you feel generates the best leads? And the question, my response is it depends. So let's see where you go with that.
Okay, so there isn't a specific answer to that one.
I know.
Every industry is different, and it's kind of like going fishing. If you cast out your pole, you got a lure on the end of that line or a piece of bait, doesn't matter what you're using, and it's going across the water, you might go across that fish, but it's where that fish is at. So you got to think about that each network being different sets of fish or even possibly different ponds because people are on different networks for different reasons.
Right.
That's why when we created the whole social media suite for Simply Be Found, we made it to where you can post to everywhere. So it's best if you're unique, and I agree with Gary V on this, is being able to post, unique to every one of those networks. To be able to say, okay, this is unique to Facebook, this is unique to X, this is because people are thinking about it in a different way. But if you don't have time for that, posting everywhere, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Someone's going to see the post. You already took the time to write it. So is someone going to see the post and they're going to take action and buy a product? I mean, that's about the worst thing that's going to happen.
Right. And, and the other thing too is like you were talking about the fishing scenario or analogy is we've talked to people, we've had guests that said X was a great place for them to get leads. And the next person said Facebook was where they got the leads. So it really depends on your network, what your client base is. Right. So there's not a linear answer to that. It's part of that tree branch thing. It depends on where you got to, everything is important. Everything's got to come out. So I mean,
everything's tied together and everything brings value. So each of the social media networks bring different value for certain voice search networks and certain local search networks like Google and Bing. They all have different values and they all pull different pieces there. It's kind of like going back to the review question that was right before this one. I mean, reviews are unique to each of those networks as well. It's all about being able to be everywhere because in today's climate, just going to one spot and focusing there is going to get you in trouble.
I agree. Sorry, I had to mute there. For some reason, I have a little tickle in my throat going on.
It's allergy season, man.
What's that?
It's allergy season. It's starting to kick up.
The trees are starting to bud out at my place, so I'm feeling it right now. Okay, so this is kind of another depends question. What type of content works best? on social media, in particular, photos, videos, testimonials. I mean,
Combination.
right.
I mean, it's going to come down to that same exact piece. It's going to be a combo. Depends on what your industry is, what your goal is. I think video is a great spot to start, because when you start with that video, you then you can have a transcript off of it. You can go to YouTube. You can go out to each of the networks, and then you can pull that transcript to bring in blogs, bring in social media posts that are there. So now you have it's kind of that, that one shot to be able to kill two birds, or whatever, that one stone to kill two birds, or whatever that phrase is. Because I'm going to totally lose my track of thought now. But it's being able to bring that into the piece. So when you bring that in, content is huge. Content is still king, but not content that is not valuable. Where a lot of people end up failing inside of social media is they're trying to sell all the time, and they're bringing no value to their user base. And that makes people unlike them, unsubscribe, and do all those things because they're not bringing value. No one wants to be sold 24/7, but if you actually bring value in. So like if you're a roofer talking about, here's what I recommend, here's what to look for, here's what to check for, here's when you just stand there and you look at your roof, here's what you should look at. And if you see the following things, that is a great trigger point for you to be able to make a phone call for us to do a roof inspection, so an expert can put their two eyes on that,
right.
that problem, if it is a problem.
Right. And again, it's back to the storytelling of how can I help you solve your problem?
Correct.
I mean, it really is. So next one is what's the most cost-effective strategy for generating leads without using ads? And and the thing is they're wonderful questions, and they're good questions, but there's no specific answer for a lot of these. I mean, it just takes time. That's why we offer coaching for marketing. You and I do, and because everybody's situation is unique. But anyway, I want to, so I'm going to let you.
Go back to the question one more time.
So what's the most effective strategy for generating leads without expensive ads?
So if you're gonna generate leads without ads, you're gonna go to organic marketing. You're gonna use the organic marketing to be able to get your business found. You're gonna go to the video analogy that I was just talking about inside of this whole piece of starting that video and building it out and building those pieces. That's gonna be a huge spot for you to be able to really kind of grow your business and be able to build that organic piece, making sure you're listed on as many networks as you possibly can and going through the steps, because it's going to come down to those three pillars of content, authority, and trust, being absolutely everywhere, generating the content. And generating content doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it in an hour or two in a week. Or if you are a seasonal business, you should have sat down during your non-busy time and you could have planned your entire year out. But what most businesses don't understand for content, and they kind of just end up really kind of shooting themselves in the foot for, is they don't think about what they can get content out of. So most business owners have a whole entire piece to where they're like, man, this is going to be super hard. And it's going to take me so much time to be able to generate content, and it's going to be a pain in my butt. Well, generating content, you're thinking about it in the wrong way. So if you're a landscaper or a roofer, or no matter what business, you can be a realtor, you can get back in your car, or if you're in your office, you can pull out your phone, you can record a YouTube video, even if it's a short, even if you're just doing it like this and staring at yourself and having a conversation, and walk through, this customer had this problem and this was my solution. Here's what I recommended, because somebody else has that problem. Now you just generated content about that. And it didn't take you any more time. And if you take notes at every single job to be able to go back and do bids on, especially if you're a contractor, now you have all of your notes that you just talked about for that job site. You don't have to say what name it was, but now you have all the notes. So then you can take the transcript inside of GPTs or AI of whatever source and say it was for this client. Now you can get more detailed for your own notes and know this is what I walked through. You can even walk through, you can record while you're at the job site and be like, hey, I record everything I do. I'm going to record this whole job. I'm not going to have your face in it. I'm not going to have the address of your location, but I record all this so I can give you the proper bid when I get back. That is going to be able to be used inside of marketing, because people will care about that. If they have that problem, somebody else has that problem inside of your area, or they will in the future. And now that you have content in that, you have a higher chance of coming up inside of search results.
Perfect. Thanks. All right. Appreciate that. That was a long ways around, but it's very, but let's face it, everything about business is not unique and is not specifically linear. So the next question they have is, I just lost my train. I just lost my mark. I moved
See, my answers
mouse.
are so detailed. I got you all flustered there,
Yeah,
Dave.
you did. I mean, you went way deeper on that than I thought.
You
But
thought I was just going to pass that off and be like, I just answered that.
yeah, but no, hell with you. But so anyway,
But you know better than get me into a mode of answering questions.
yeah, we've done this before when we talked about the 25 or 24 or 24 or 24. Anyway, I digress. So next question that they had is on their website. They want to know what's the best practice for pricing. Should they show their prices on websites, or will it scare their customers away? I have opinions on that, but let's hear what you've got to say, right?
I want to know your opinion on it first.
Well, basically,
I don't want to influence you. You go on that one.
well, no, you're not going to influence me at all. When I go to a website, I want to see the pricing. I want to know what I'm getting into. It depends, but it depends a little bit. I
It
mean,
does.
I mean, if you're a roofer and you're going to say roofs start at $30,000 and go up, that may scare somebody away. But
It could.
depending on what your industry is. I mean, just to say a roof needs to be replaced, you don't know all the facets. So in some ways, it depends. I agree with you. It depends. I don't like to say call, leave your email, your phone number, all this stuff, and we'll get back to you for pricing. I don't want that, because now I'm on somebody's list and I get enough phone calls and emails already. So I don't like that part of it. So it depends. For some industries, I like pricing and some I don't. So that's my answer.
So pricing is one of those things. I agree with you on that, and I agree. It depends on which industry you're in. There's different aspects you can do for pricing. You can have starting at prices, or not prices. Geez, many crickets. You can do starting at prices inside of some aspects. You can say that the average costs this. You can bring that in. I think probably the hardest one is going to be contractors for different things. Like if you're a painter or you're a power washer, well, it depends on what you're coming into. If you're a roofer, well, it depends on how big your roof is. I mean, if you're talking about roofing your shed, is going to be a different price than roofing your whole entire house versus, what it is there. Kind of like concrete or anything of that nature. If you're a real estate agent, your prices are pretty to be there, or what you charge is based on a percentage in most areas. Right. So you'd have that percentage that's inside of there. If you are a restaurant, put your prices on. That way someone knows what those menu items are. Right. If you are a chiropractor, most of your services you have a price for. You have a menu. So I guess it would come down to the piece of your pricing for when you're doing the structure. If you're going to show it, if you have a menu that you can actually show your prices and list each of those pieces. For one, don't just take a picture of it. Make sure you type it all out and put it on your website. But put it in there and keep it in there. And you might have just a starting or average price that's inside of there, but that gives value. Because what a lot of places do, and I see this a lot inside of web design agencies and marketing agencies and software, especially enterprise software. So when we talk about enterprise stuff, they always want to put it behind a price gate because they want you to have to talk to a salesperson. My psychological piece, when I have to talk to a salesperson to get a price, 9 times out of 10, that just means that it's going to be more expensive, because now they have to pay for that salesperson. They have to pay for all those things to go there. Inside the contracting world, you might still have to talk to a salesperson to get there, but now I have an idea. Is it in my budget? So when you do that, you start to bring those ideas out of starting at or average prices, especially in the contracting world. What that helps resolve is your salesperson not going out to jobs that they can't afford. Because if they can't afford you, you're wasting your time. And inside of business, you only have so much time, you only have so much money, and time you don't get back. You can always make more money, but time you can't get back. So it's one of those things to where you have to be very critical in there. And by showcasing your pricing, For one, it's going to make you stand out from your competitors. And for two, it's going to give some comfort to it that I'm making this phone call, because there's also a psychological piece to a buyer inside of that mode as well. When they're on a website, can I afford this? Is it in my price page? I don't want to be embarrassed by you sending a salesperson out here and me not being able to afford this product. And then I have to tell you, no, that I can't afford it. It's not my budget. And now I just made myself look like I'm an idiot. And all these different things come out to the consumer side. So when you look at that whole entire pricing structure, there's so much that comes to it that it is a big question. But most of the time, if you can put an average, put the price, or put a starting at price, do it.
Right. So let's talk contractors for just a second. We've had this discussion with various people. Should I charge for my estimates? and you know, because we've had some people say, I don't feel busy because I'm not doing quotes, but they're not closing. And we have then they go, well, my competition is closing all these deals, but they're charging $39 or $50 for them to come out. So the question is it depends. It depends a little bit, but that's an ongoing debate, because you have people that say free estimates. Other people say I'm going to charge you for coming out and looking at it. What's your take on that piece?
I have a blog getting ready to come out. It hasn't released yet. I'll make sure I put it in the comments and the description of this when it does come out. But it talks about the psychological side of charging for charging for an estimate. And I get asked this question all the time inside of my coaching for, this part of what I do, and then my consulting for what I do with a lot larger corporations. And it's a big conversation that's really coming up a lot. And it's coming up of, should I do that? And I think there's a method to the madness there. I don't think you charge for the quote. I don't think you put it on there and say, hey, guess what? And lawyers do this all the time as well. They charge for that consultation. I think that's a different scenario. But if you're a contractor, 9 times out of 10, if you're a contractor, you know about how much that's going to cost after you've had a phone conversation. So I think most contractors should be putting on their website, schedule a call. The call is completely free. Schedule a call with me. You block it out, and you have an actual schedule. So now you can use Calendly. You can use a lot of different software to be able to schedule those calls out, and it follows your calendar. You have a phone call with the person, even if you have a salesperson. But if you're a contractor, 9 times out of 10, you're going to know about what range that's going to be, or a starting price. Now you can tell them, they can send you some pictures and all that inside of the form of what they're trying to accomplish, tell you about it. And then they could tell you on the phone. You could even have them do a Loom video or a video recording of the project they're looking at. That gives you an idea of what it's going to cost, what they're looking for. So then you can say, okay, this is going to cost you this much. Because what ends up happening inside of that scenario is a lot of times these contractors come out, they draw up the plans, and they do all this, then they give the price. Well, that's the part that costs money, is drawing up the plans, giving everything, and then they go use somebody else to be able to do that project, and they don't use you, but you did all the work for that next person because you gave them all these materials.
Right.
So if you're going to give them those materials, you charge for it at that point. And you're honest and during your phone call and say, I can come out, I can do this for you, but treat that like a service, and treat that whole entire plan and that recommendation and that part, because there's knowledge that comes in. So as business owners, we forget what value we have for what we've done inside of there. We're experts inside of our world. So when you're talking about that side, bring that up and bring up that you can plan all that out. And this is what I charge for that. Now, if you use us to go forward with the project, I will give that back as a credit for when you go forward. But this is the price you're going to start at. This is the range that I'm thinking that, judging by what you're telling me, I can do this for you and draw all that up. It's going to cost you this much money. Would you like to move forward with that? And I can come do an in-person, evaluation on what your problem is. And then if you choose to go with me, I'll give you a credit based on that. What's your thoughts on that? Because
I don't agree with you at all. I mean, without both of us agreeing, because we've had these conversations. We agree. We may look at it a little differently, just because of perceptions on the buyer side. But overall, I think that's a great recommendation, what you just said. So, all right. So let's move on to the next question. If you're ready for this one.
Let's go.
Okay. This one happens to be from a landscaper, and he wants to know what he or she, I don't know if it's a male or female, but they want to know what they should be doing in the off season to promote, because they're a seasonal business. They're coming out of their slow season. But what should they have been doing during their slow season to promote themselves going into their busy seasons?
Here's the interesting thing about landscapers. Depends on where you're talking at in the country, depends on where your seasons are at and what you're doing. Like, some have major snow removal, some of them have all that stuff, but everybody has downtime pieces.
Right.
Everybody has office time that they're doing that piece in. What you should be doing is planning out your content. So if you're using something like the social media marketing suite, you can actually plan all your social media out, and then you can fill that in with things that are actual projects that you're doing throughout the year. But you can have your evergreen content planned out. You can have your blogs planned out. You can have videos of you talking just about yourself, or taking materials that you've done throughout the year before. If you're following all the principles, you could use all those past videos, past blogs, revise them and do all that. But you can do your content planning on there. And that's something that I think coaching is really good on, because every business is a little unique. And I love when we get those questions. We've got a lot of them back in last November from a lot of landscapers, a lot of contractors. And I love going through and helping them come up with a plan. Okay, here's a checklist. Here's all that. And that's included in just our listings engine. I mean, that coaching is absolutely invaluable, because it's one of those things to where we could give you that checklist of here's what you should try to accomplish. And that's the time that you can do it, because you're working on your business. During their season, for most contractors, now not all contractors, not all landscapers are working in their business. Some of them still have staff that could be doing some of these things. There's a lot of stuff that comes in. So it depends on how big and what your ecosystem looks like. But for a lot of them that are working in their business during the heat of the season, this really helps them stay ahead. And then if they forget something in the season, say they get so busy and they're wearing all these hats and everything's going to hell for their project they're on, and they forget to post to social media, it's not a big deal, because they know they have all that. And what I find from that is a lot of business owners feel a lot of relaxation from that, because now they know their marketing is happening, regardless if they're doing it right then, but they have it planned out for that whole year. And they have a game plan in, so it takes one less of stress off. Because let's face it, as a business owner, you have all these worries that are happening. My wife always talks about the mom brain and how it has all this stuff and managing all this stuff. Well, business owners have the same kind of brain. We're thinking about payroll. We're thinking about marketing. We're thinking about sales. How am I going to do this? What am I going to do here? Do I have all the parts for this? Do I have this? Do I have that? So being able to take one thing out of that mix and knowing it's taken care of, it brings some relaxation back down into that piece and helps reduce your stress. I
agree with you. And then the other thing too is I think you kind of miss an important piece. And I think some of these, people think they're just going to, I'm not busy right now, so I'm not going to do anything. So I'm going to just shut down and not put the information out there.
That's one of the worst things you can do.
Oh, absolutely. But the second worst thing you do is when you're busy, you're not putting out information about your business then, so that when you do hit the slow time, you may pick up some business that you may hit something you don't even realize that you're missing out on, because the way that the lag stuff happens a little bit. So do you agree with that thought process as well? I mean, that's exactly what we do the whole thing.
I agree. The whole 100, but I agree 100% on that.
Okay, so the next question is, what's the best way to partner with other professionals to help business? I think that's kind of a really tough one, because you can't partner with insurance agents, with roofing. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. There's really not a right answer. I mean, that's a question, but I don't think we really, in the digital marketing world, that's really something that we really can help with a lot. You can make people aware of you, but you can't really partner with them to say, we're going to come to you because of your industry or whatever, because I think there's some legality things that go on in some of that stuff.
So there is some legal stuff that comes into that. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what those things are right away. Right. But there's some things that come into play. But there's some insurance agents. There's a lot of insurance agents inside of the contracting world that are independent. And when they're independent, they refer people over. There's also a lot of insurance agents that still give out business cards. So if you're a roofing business, a concrete business, or say you're a restoration company, you still have your contacts that you talk to all the time that are inside of like the insurance world. You have realtors that you work with. Realtors probably refer contractors probably more than any other business, and probably one of the least looked at industries for being a referral. So when you're going in and you're looking at a house to be able to buy from a realtor, and it has different problems, you can say, I would recommend XYZ. And this goes into, I've had this happen when I was looking at houses in the past. Let me have that contractor come out. He'll do it for free. I refer him a lot of business. He'll come out, he'll look at it, and let's find out how much that'll cost to fix that or the way you want it. So let me know what it's going to be if you were to put an offer on this house. And that could be anything from concrete patios to landscaping to drywall to remodels. It could be anything and everything. It might be a complete bathroom, a new kitchen, or new paint. It might be a painter. So you got to think about that for your business of what kind of people could refer me, because referral is still a huge part of your marketing. It's part of your tree when we talk about that. It's a branch. Referral marketing is huge. So you got to think about who could refer my business and be able to help me be able to reduce that, because now it comes as a recommendation. So when you're buying a house, you're trusting them with so many things. When they make a recommendation, you're going to go with that recommendation, because obviously they've used them. They've heard they were in pricing or higher price that job over on like Angels or Home Advisors or one of those.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, you did just for a second. I'm not sure what's going on. But I'm back. I'm better now. So that's why it's live and unedited. So anyway, let's do one more question. I know we're not all the way through all of them, but how do you expand into more service areas without wasting a lot of money?
Your internet's really in and out. All right, we lost Dean. That's why it's live and it's unedited. I do show that internet speed is kind of low. I'm back. Let's see if it comes back. Hopefully our individual recordings are better for it. So let's go and continue.
All right. So I'm still having some intermittent things on this. Rob, let's patch this one up and call it good for the day.
All right. Looks like we're having some issues as far as that. Those are some questions, Dean. We'll continue doing questions later when you're back with us and everything. But I think that's a good video and where we are for today's huddle. If you
Yep, I agree. Thanks, Rob.
Have further questions, anything you want us to answer, I think these kind of go back for questions. Getting your questions, come check us out at simplybefound.com if you haven't already. My name's Rob, and that's Dean. I'm not sure if he's still with us or not.
I'm back. I'm back right now.
We appreciate you listening to the huddle, and have a great